Welcome back to the table and yet another X-Men Dice Throne reveal. I'm here with Nelson to talk about the two new characters that were just announced, and that is Rogue and Gambit, which are two really iconic characters, I think.
And a perfect pairing, right? Because
Yes.
they work together.
They work together?
Yeah, they work
together really well
together. Yeah. But I mean, Gambit, I am super excited. I love Gambit. I'm really excited to hear and talk a little bit more about both of these characters. But
yeah, me too. Because unlike some of the previous ones, we actually don't have the components yet for these, but we have been given everything. So we've been able to kind of deep dive and read all about these characters, look at all their cards, all their abilities, see how they kind of interact, and how they kind of service the individuality of these characters.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start. I'm going to talk about Rogue.
Okay.
Now, Rogue, as we know, is a character that can kind of absorb powers, as well as just kind of having some standard powers that she just kind of has had, like the power of flight, which is one of the things that she's going to be doing. And she has a few tokens that she can gain. One of those is representing that flight aspect, and that is called Skyward. This kind of lets her take off. If she's taking damage, you can spend it to potentially either avoid that damage or do some kind of power hit back at the enemy. It's a roll-off.
Oh, wait. Okay,
Yeah.
So how does the roll-off work?
So you just have, if you use that token against an opponent attacking you, you roll it, and depending on what you roll, you either do damage back or you take less damage. So you are getting
Nice.
some kind of value. There's no possible fail outcome. But that's Skyward, and then she has an influence ability. Now this is kind of cool too, leading into her ability to kind of take things away from the characters.
Oh yeah.
She can give you influence tokens, and you might skip your offensive roll phase.
That seems bad.
Oh, it's really bad. For every one of those tokens you have to roll, and if you roll 1 to 3, you get one less offensive roll phase.
Oh, really?
And you only get 3 to start with. But then we get to her last token, and I wanted to talk about this this section first, because this kind of runs into her whole theme. And this is ionic energy. This is a type of energy that Rogue stores over the course of a match. And she's going to get this ionic energy in a few different ways. First of all, there's cards and abilities that just straight up generate it. But then also her passive ability, if she gets hit with damage, she generates ionic energy from being hit.
Okay.
So it's kind of like that Rogue thing. If you're going to touch her, if you're going to come in and do damage, she's going to absorb some of that energy from you, and then she can unleash that energy back in an attack. So she's going to store up a lot of ionic energy, and then there's some rules for how you release it, but it's effectively increasing the damage of whatever effect you're doing. And there's some cards even, like this one, Sweet Tea, that lets you not only gain ionic energy, but also spend more ionic energy than you'd normally be able to spend, so you can kind of wind up for that big hit. The other thing that Rogue is really good at is healing. Again, kind of like in the comics, her power there, if she does her leech ability, and there's some cards as well, as she does damage, she actually gains health back. So all this kind of stuff of this theme of taking things from your opponent, taking the damage and turning it back. It is very thematic. And there is a card in here too that references Gambit, so you might enjoy this. There's Remy's Kiss.
Oh, okay.
So she gets to draw some cards and have a little influence. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah, that's them working together really well.
Yeah.
All right, so tell me about Gambit.
Let's talk about Gambit. I am so pumped for Gambit. He has these ace cards, and pretty much the biggest thing that Gambit is trying to do is charge up these cards.
That's cool.
That's thematic,
so thematic.
Right? And so Gambit, thematically is working and throwing cards, using his staff, fighting. But he's charging up these cards with these molecular acceleration tokens.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and so either your offensive rolls or some of your cards, like if you get a small straight, you deal some damage, you also get to charge a card. And these cards are sitting face up. There's 4 aces, 1 of each suit, and they all do a little bit different. So you can spin one of these cards, you can explode the cards is the terminology, where say you use the heart. You can modify an offensive roll phase with the ace of hearts where it does a little bit extra damage, but also heals. So the thematics.
Yeah,
and then you can, once you explode, they turn face down, and then there's a couple of mechanics through cards and dice rolls to flip those back up so you can charge them again.
Yeah, that is super thematic. I've always loved that image of Gambit, just throwing out the cards and the sentinels. That lives in my mind forever.
Oh, yes. It's incredible. Also, someone who really likes card stuff, I'm
that's
always drawn towards Gambit. But he seems really flexible, and that's what I like, because each one of those aces has a different ability. So if you need to heal, you go for that hearts. If you need more damage, you can go with the ace of clubs. And so there's a lot of flexibility there. He's got a couple of other tokens that he can use as well. So Dissolution is one of his positive status effects, where you can spin this to heal 2 or remove a negative status effect. And so again, more of that flexibility, which I think is pretty cool. And then his negative status effect that he can inflict is called Disruption. and you inflict this on an opponent, they either have to take 2 damage or spend 1 CP or skip their roll phase. So there is a little bit of, take that, which is what I love about Dice Throne.
Both these characters can make you skip aspects, so he makes you skip your whole roll phase.
Whole roll phase.
Yeah, you could lose your whole roll phase with Rogue, but you got to roll. She's got to stack up those tokens. You got to roll really bad. That's crazy.
Yeah, and throwing the cards is also kind of emulated in his dice rolls because while some of his effects and some of his cards can charge cards, he also has a red dice which emulates the hearts or the diamonds, and then the black dice which emulates the spade or clubs. And when you activate an ability that uses one of those dice, you can choose to charge either like the spade or the club if you use that. So it's another way to roll into that. And then there's a final way that you can do that. And that's his passive abilities. So during your upkeep phase, you get to choose. You can roll 2 or 5 dice. If you roll 2, and any of these dice, you get benefits based off the numbers. But if you choose to roll 5 and you roll a 1, you get nothing.
Oh wow!
And so it's a little bit of yeah. And so if you need that final push and you want a little bit more high risk, high reward type situation, you can choose to roll all 5 and go at it and maybe charge up a couple more cards and throw them.
Awesome. Well, you'll be able to find Rogue and Gambit when this game launches on crowdfunding. You'll be able to see all the different characters. Go back and watch some of our other reveal videos if you missed them. We've done several characters by now. And again, these are all going to be coming packaged together in the crowdfunding campaign. So take a look at that for more information. And please leave some comments, ask us questions, join us on the Discord because we're all very excited about X-Men Marvel Dice Throne. And stay tuned for more. And until we see you again, make sure everybody has fun at the table.